So these days, scrolling through YouTube feels like 100 people screaming at you all at once. But here's the weird part. A lot of the creators making the most money these days are doing the exact opposite. Meet Deya. She's built a wildly profitable one-person business by quietly breaking every rule in the YouTube playbook. So in this video, we're going to dive into the new strategy that creators like Deya are using to get rich from YouTube, and how maybe you can borrow this strategy for your own videos as well. So back in the early days of YouTube, everything was about authenticity. People were going viral just by waffling to a low-quality camera in their bedrooms, and it was amazing. It was the golden era of YouTube. No one cared about retention tactics or crazy hooks. It was literally just real people making videos for the fun of it. But then something shifted. And I don't know when this happened, but at some point YouTube became very loud and very kind of degenerate. And out of nowhere, it just kind of stopped being about real, authentic people and started to feel like everyone was just shouting at you and kind of desperate for your attention. But I have a theory that we're kind of going full circle and people are gravitating back towards content that feels more like a conversation and not a sales pitch. And I call this the anti-guru effect. So let's take Deya's channel, for example. Even if we just look at the thumbnails alone, they're kind of the exact opposite of what we're told a viral thumbnail is meant to look like. There's no over-exaggerated, over-the-top facial expressions, and there's no crazy in-your-face colors or text. But for some reason, it just works. And the proof is there because her channel has really blown up in the last year. So let's take her most viewed video, for example. And this is actually the title and thumbnail that I clicked on to discover her channel in the first place. Now, why does this title and thumbnail work? Well, it's because instead of relying on empty visual gimmicks, it goes all in on promised transformation and depth. It's kind of like you're being invited to sit with a friend and listen to their story about how they transformed their own life. And it's not just Deya who's using this calmer, more restrained approach to making YouTube videos. This is something a lot of creators are starting to do because, to put it simply, it just works. And the way I see it, this kind of softer approach to creating videos and presenting ideas is the most powerful way to build an audience on social media right now. But here's the thing, creators like Deya are not just blowing up because of their thumbnails or their branding. It's obviously a lot more than that. And that actually brings us onto the second part of this strategy, which is the best friend effect. So this idea is less about Deya's branding and more about how she speaks to the camera.
First of all, big hug. Big hug. That was kind of awkward, but it was cute.
I want the energy to be like calm, settled, situated. You know what I mean?
So that's the point of this video, is to break things down into teeny tiny mouse-sized cheese pieces so you can actually just...
As you can see, when you watch her videos, it kind of feels like a one-on-one conversation. Just someone being themselves, kind of talking directly to you, and it almost feels like a FaceTime with a close friend. And that's what I mean by the best friend effect. Deya's not trying to show you how smart she is. She's not sitting there kind of posturing as an expert or a guru. She's just genuinely sharing her experiences and the things she's learned on her own journey. But the thing is that this approach might sound simple, but it's actually virtually impossible to fake. You can't strategize your way into it. It kind of has to be real, which is probably why it works so well. So if you're watching this and you make videos yourself, understanding the power of the best friend effect could literally take your videos to the next level. But how do we actually implement this? How do we actually create that ultra personable best friend effect in our videos? Well, it's actually really simple. And I think this is probably some of the best advice I've ever received when it comes to creating content and speaking on camera. And it's that when you're filming a video like this, literally imagine that the camera is your best friend. And I mean really imagine and visualize that the camera is a very specific person in your life, like an actual best friend that you have. And this tip has really helped me on my own journey, especially on my other YouTube channel. And I'm not saying I'm amazing at speaking on camera, like filming these kind of long form, semi-scripted videos is still quite new to me, to be honest. But it's a technique that definitely gets me out of my head a little bit and makes me feel a little bit less anxious about how I'm speaking and things like that. And of course, it's not just Deya who creates this best friend effect. This is basically how all the OG YouTubers built an audience, by leaning really heavily into their actual real life personalities. And on top of that, if you can create this best friend effect in your videos, you don't really need to worry as much about tactics for improving retention and things like that, because the trust and the connection that you build with your audience kind of becomes the thing that improves retention. But now if we zoom out a little bit, this becomes even more powerful when you take into account one other thing, and that is AI. I mean, we're kind of already starting to see it. I'm sure you've seen those, faceless AI generated YouTube channels and things like that. And also I see certain YouTube videos sometimes and I just think I know for a fact that ChatGPT wrote this script. But in the future, when AI will be able to, fake almost anything and create virtually any type of content, the only thing that it won't be able to fake is you, essentially. Your personality, your perspectives, your best friend energy. And it'll get to a point where perfection won't be persuasive anymore. And I know how cliche this sounds, but your imperfections and your weird, quirky personality traits will be the thing that set you apart. So yeah, maybe try this best friend effect idea in your next video, and I guarantee that it'll help you a lot. But there's one final piece of the puzzle that we need to dive into. And I think you're gonna find this really interesting because it's about the money-making side of things. So Deya's videos are all in the same niche. They're all about making money online with a heavy focus on freelancing. And I talked about this in my last video when it comes to the importance of becoming very clear and focused about who you're talking to, what their problems are, and how you can solve them. And Deya's channel is very clear about this. It's aimed at, in her words, the self-employed girlies, which is really, really smart. But we can look one step further and see that apart from Instagram and things like that, Deya has just one link for her audience to click on to enter her sales funnel. And again, I talked about this in my last video when it comes to the importance of creating a very simple, streamlined path from your videos on YouTube to just one product or service. And for Deya, that one link takes you to a free 3-video mini course on freelancing. Now, not only does this perfectly match the niche she's in and, the topics she talks about on YouTube, but the fact that this link takes you to a mini course that is completely free is really powerful. Because now imagine that Deya had this whole best friend vibe going on, and then her product was just her immediately trying to charge you like $3,000 for a course or something like that. That would feel kind of weird and out of place based on the rest of her brand. But by giving her audience even more value for free before she even mentions her paid products is really, really smart. And the interesting thing is that this is a 3-step sales strategy that you're going to see all the time on YouTube. So step 1 is to offer a lot of free value and kind of mini transformations in your free content on YouTube. And secondly, you direct your audience to something free like a mini course that's going to give them even more value and build even more trust for free. And then for the third and final step, you will then offer them the paid product, like one-on-one coaching or a course or something like that. And again, you're going to see this business model all the time, especially on YouTube. And the reason for that is because it just works. But what if you're in a situation where you see a creator like Deya and you see this one-person business that she's built, and you might be thinking, how do I even get to that point? How do I build a one-person business like that completely from scratch? Well, in this video right here, I will show you exactly how I built one of these businesses from $0 all the way up to $10,000 a month. So yeah, click over to that video and I will see you there.